Are you ready to unlock the secrets of brand innovation? Here you'll discover unexpected ways to make your brand soar in value. Get ready for inspiring stories, actionable tips, and insights you'll need to build your brand and learn an entirely new way to fly. This is the Hummingbird Effect. And now your host, Wendy Coulter.
Hi, I'm Wendy Coulter, and I help CEOs and marketing leaders unlock the power of their brands. For years, business leaders have focused on marketing tactics, but what truly matters is building a strong brand. Think of it like the Hummingbird Effect. Small innovations in branding can lead to surprisingly big results: increased valuation, a stronger culture, and a marketing message that resonates. Welcome to the show today. I have Hanna Jernigan with me as usual. She's our marketing coordinator from Hummingbird Creative Group. Good morning, Hanna.
Good morning. How are you? Oh, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We were talking before the show about what kind of sports you did in college?
Timber sports. My deepest secret.
Yeah, we're going to have to unpack that over time. What was your most memorable moment in timber sports in college?
First of all, going to the woods, that was out of pocket for me. But I don't even know what it's called anymore. It was the axe throwing right into the bullseye. Everyone was like, "Who is this girl?"
In your heels?
In my heels. I'm red. It was embarrassing.
Okay. Well, and that has nothing to do with the show, but you dropped that on me.
Did you have trouble getting a date after that, Hanna?
Oh, no. I was dating one of the people there, so I secured him, I think.
So we'll unpack more about that in the future. But anyway, so today we have Mike Ganey with us, and I'm super excited to have Mike on the show. I actually interviewed Mike quite a few years ago. It's probably been 10 years ago for a video blog that we were doing at the time, and you had just, I believe, begun working at House-Autry at the time. Mm-hmm. So that goes back a while, and maybe we'll get some updates on some of your time with those brands today. But I'd love for you to just tell our listeners some of your background and what you're doing today as well.
Thank you. Thank you both. It's fun to talk about. I love talking about marketing because it's still top of mind with me. I didn't intend to go into marketing. I thought I was going to go into B2B sales after going to business school, and went to work for Anheuser-Busch in St. Louis, got the marketing bug, got involved on a Skunk Works team of 8 people that was tasked with developing diversification opportunities for the company that were all non-alcoholic. So we looked at This is back in 78.
Wow.
We were looking at bottled water and soft drinks for adults. We looked at, ended up launching beer on tap shampoo with Bristol Myers.
Okay.
We looked at a variety of categories. And number one, that turned me on to marketing because we had to take everything from concept all the way through test markets and recommendations to the board and senior management every step of the way. And the other thing it taught me was to think holistically about marketing. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So my career, real quickly. I worked for Anheuser-Busch for several years in marketing. I headed up marketing for Balson, one of the largest cookie companies in Europe, where I used my German language skills. Some people wouldn't call them skills if they were Germans, but to me they were skills. And I developed an appreciation especially for understanding the value of understanding the consumer in different countries, cross borders. And then if you take that learning back to the U.S., it's more about the value of segmenting your audience and knowing exactly who you need to be talking to. So after that, I went to work for Howard Maryland Partners, which was we positioned ourselves as strategists who do great creative. And with my background, of course, I worked on the account management side. I also did business development, managed some of the consumer brands that came in. So we did work, new product development work for Coors. We did a lot of work with Kimberly-Clark, Georgia-Pacific, BB&T. So we had a mix of national, regional, and some local brands, and a handful of startups. We didn't make as good a fit with startups as I had hoped we would. But after that, I retired for about 3 months and then went to work for the American Kennel Club.
Yes.
I was going to talk to them. I talked to them about a consulting assignment, and the next day I got hired. I came in as a director looking at the world of purebred dogs from the breeder's perspective, because it was distribution oriented, which if you understand food distribution, you understand distribution of most anything.
Okay.
So dog distribution, imagine that. And after being there 2 months, the VP of marketing left. So I took over all of marketing, all of consumer research, all product development. And I traveled to New York every month for board presentations. And the dog world is a unique world. We'll just leave it at that. If you've seen the movie Best in Show, you have a pretty good handle on what the AKC was like. A lot of really passionate people. And
so that's not crazy reality TV. That's real reality TV.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so close I mentioned it as an analogy. So then marketing got moved to New York after 2 years. I left and retired the second time for 3 months. And a recruiter spotted me on LinkedIn about a position with House-Autry Mills down in Four Oaks. And the board had asked the CEO to hire somebody with marketing experience to come in because they felt that the consumer was being neglected or not getting all the attention they needed in strategic decisions. So I interviewed with the CEO and got hired the next week. And I worked there 4 years as an employee and a year as a consultant, wrapping up pretty major innovation initiative. We're going to talk about that too.
Okay.
So then I retired the third time. And I've been doing some volunteer work. I moderate a foreign policy 8-session course at Osher Lifelong Learning at NC State.
Oh, nice.
It's for adults 50 plus. And I tell everybody up front real quickly, I'm not the subject matter expert, but if you've run focus groups, you can moderate a group. And the participants in the class just amaze me at their level of engagement in current affairs. Last thing I did was co-author a strategic plan for our church.
Oh, nice.
And I get involved in habitat. But I got, as my wife described me, I'm the sheepdog with no sheep right now. So I'm looking at targeting private equity firms which own small food and beverage companies that could need some help with either due diligence, product innovation, or marketing efficiency. So I'm going to see where that takes me.
That's awesome.
And I'm living proof that age is no barrier to having fun and doing good work.
Well, and your agency got like through and through too, even though that's only been a part of your journey. I think just always from talking to you, I think the agency world made an impact on your outlook on marketing and what you've been able to do for the brands. So,
That's a really good point. I had an appreciation for brands up to that point, but we drilled as deeply as any human being on earth into what brands really mean.
Yeah.
And the importance of making emotional connections with your audience, not just filling their heads with features that may or may not be relevant, but connecting on a gut level so that when they hear your message, experience your brand, they immediately get warm all over and feel that it's right for them. Or conversely, it's not for them, which is okay.
Right.
Because that means we did a good job targeting and positioning. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that branding is kind of taken a beating because it sounds like soft power in the foreign policy space, but it's really one of the last sources of competitive advantage given the open internet-driven world we live in. There are almost no secrets.
Right.
So how are you going to compete? Brand is still the high ground, and it always will be, in my view.
Right. Absolutely.
Unless you're selling to robots.
Well, we might be. We might not even know it. So I want to delve on into Hummingbird effect a little bit and just ask you to take me to an instance that you remember where you saw a very seemingly small change that you made in a marketing initiative or strategy that really led to a big change in a different area of the business. My guess is you have a ton of stories to tell, but what really stands out in this area?
I think I'd have to go back to the last thing I did for House-Autry. The making of the milling of corn and wheat and mixing it with seasonings for fried foods, that business is on the decline. In restaurants, it still holds pretty steady because they've repositioned it as crispy chicken instead of fried chicken, which I thought was pretty masterful, but as a short-term strategy. But long-term, consumers are far more aware of health issues, and they're staying away from fried food, and that's what House-Autry built its 200-plus year heritage on.
That's right.
So what do you do? So the CEO and I got together on more than one occasion to talk about new products. And two things happened. I'm going to share two stories with you, and they're both relevant, I believe, or you be the judge of that. The first one was Walmart was our largest single retail customer. We were in about 1,200 stores out of 4,600. And the sales manager and I were talking one time, and we were talking about developing, needing some new items. The buyer was very hungry to do something innovative in her section. And so he said, well, what new products could we develop? So we had a little conference room meeting one time, and we came up with 25 new ideas. And I'll share some examples of that in a second. But the next step was I decided to take a decidedly unfinished, unvarnished approach to presenting these concepts to the buyer so that she would have some ownership in this and feel like we co-developed these. So I asked our agency to do pencil sketches of the concepts. And we had 4 or 5 words describing the concept, and that was it. So we went into the meeting in Bentonville, and I'll never forget, she says, so what do you got for me today? Sales manager says, well, Mike has 25 new product ideas we'd like to share with you. She goes, all right, I'll take a look at them. So she's put the pages in front of her. She starts thumbing through. I'm explaining 1, 2, 4, 5. She says, wait a second. So she pulls the staple out and goes, man, I love this. That's a keeper. That one, let's put that in the middle. That one, I don't have any interest in at all. And she totally bought into 14 or 15 new items.
Awesome.
And she said, I'd like to see these when we do our review for the shelf sets in 10 weeks. I want to see products, packaging, pricing, the whole 9 yards. So
for 15 products.
Yeah. Wow. 15 products. And we go, okay. So back to the plant, fired up the R&D team, got with our packaging suppliers, worked with the agency on designs. Within 9 weeks, we were back out in Bentonville. Sales manager was out front with her, and I was in back frying blueberry hush puppies with powdered sugar on them.
Wow.
And we had a couple people from R&D in the kitchen making up some products. And the result was we got every one of those items on shelf nationally.
Wow.
So our distribution went from 10 to 12 items in 1,200 stores to 20 items in 4,600 stores.
So what do you think the key to that was with her? Having her be a part of the process of choosing the items as opposed to just showing her the top 3 or 4?
So the key with the buyer and any situation is to co-develop the product with the people that you're targeting. And this applies to consumer and B2B spaces as well. You know who you want to target because they have a particular profile that appeals to you and your company. So why not shortcut the process by getting immediate feedback from them every step of the way? It has to be iterative. Here, try this, Hanna. What do you think of that? What needs to be changed? Take it back. Make some changes. Okay, Hanna, we're back again. The key is to keep going back to the same group of people. And to do that, you develop expert panels. You might do a focus group to test a concept initially. And then the moderator and the observers will spot 2 or 3 people who really have a handle and are articulate on what you're talking about. So invite them to come back almost on a retainer basis to be part of the process. And they're not going to lie to you. That's the best part. So for me, the Hummingbird moment was co-developing products with the people you're trying to influence. In this case, we were pretty comfortable knowing our customer base that these products we presented had a good chance of appealing to them.
Hey listeners, if you're enjoying the Hummingbird Effect, there's a special treat just for you. The team has put together a free downloadable resource that maps out 20 reasons why having a branding strategy is essential for your business. It's packed with valuable insights that help you understand the power of effective branding. Don't miss out. Download it now by visiting the website hummingbird-creative.com or checking the link in the show notes.
So earlier you mentioned from Balson, I believe, the cookie company, you took away the value of learning about the customers in other countries. Can you kind of talk to how that played into the decision you made here with this specific buyer and the decision that you made, if it did play into it at all?
Working for an international food company is interesting because in general, it's challenging to adapt cookies in particular to the tastes of an individual country. So there's some averaging that goes on. You try to find the sweet spot that appeals to the most consumers in the most environments. And that involves compromise, negotiation, and collaboration, both at the R&D level and at the country manager level. Each of these country managers are responsible for sales in their territory, and they pretty much know what they want. And if they're only going to get 80% of what they want, it can lead to some conflict. In our case, there was no substitute for face-to-face meetings to talk about product development. In the case of Balson, they had a seasonal gift tin business that was big. And the lead times on getting the tins, gearing up production with the trays and the products and where it's going to be produced and how you get all this variety into one location and get it into one box efficiently is quite a challenge.
Right.
So our job really, my job working with country managers and country marketing managers was to come up on a consensus mix and get the right flavor profiles for the cookies that went in there. To me, it was just a good example, again, of understanding your audience.
Right.
There's no substitute for understanding your audience, whether it's the person who's going to buy and eat the cookie, or the retailer you have to sell through, or the country manager you have to negotiate with to get it on the shelf.
With the buyer at Walmart, what gave you the insight to know that this is how she would react best? Or did you not know? Was it just you needed something to work, so you threw it at the wall and it did stick?
I think it was more of a gut feeling. We had a sales guy and I had called on her before. And you could tell that the buyers there tended to stay 6 months to 9 months and then rotate into a different category.
Okay.
So we knew we had a short fuse, but she was different than most any other buyer I had called on at Walmart or Sam's because she was interested in shaking up the category, not rearranging the shelf sets for optimal profit. She left that to the merchandising team. So I like getting people excited about ideas. Her pressure point was new products. I felt there was an opportunity to create excitement. And because we had a short time, we couldn't be developing full, perfect package concepts and final products. We had to get her involved in the screening if we were going to do this sprint before she left the job. So it was a combination of insights about her behavior and reading her, and the time pressure we were under given her tenure. So it's a combination of business pressure and just observational, just tuning into the people you're communicating with. It's what you do every day anyhow.
You had mentioned that you had 2 hummingbird effects, a little treat for us. Can you share your other one?
Yeah, this one isn't exactly a brand experience, but when I started at Anheuser-Busch, I had a job description, marketing manager. And I read the job description, and my job was to make sure, I thought my job was to complete the checklist on the assigned duties. So I tried to do the very best I could at each of those things on that review. After I left Anheuser-Busch and went to work for Balson, I was a director for the Austin Quality Foods brand initially. And then within a year, I was promoted to VP marketing over the Balson brand and Austin. And I got a seat on the management committee. The management committee was 12 people that were either senior directors or VPs. And we met monthly to review financials, talk about everything that was going on operationally, stem to stern in the company. And I had an aha moment in one of those meetings where I realized that to be the most effective in my job, I had to view marketing through a general management consultant lens. I had to make sure that marketing was seen as the linchpin in the company's future. And the way to do that was for me to fully understand how I could, through marketing, add value to finance, purchasing, operations, distribution, packaging design, packaging structures, R&D, innovation. And that led me to view marketing rather than as a discipline that fits on the org chart, but more as a hub within the company. And it became, over time, the go-to place for information for people in various areas.
I mean, I think that's so important, Mike, for any marketing leader, especially young marketing leaders, to understand today as well, is how much marketing impacts every area of the business, how much it can impact every area of the business. And I think a lot of leaders who are not in the marketing space don't realize the value that marketing minds can bring. But then I think a lot of marketing leaders don't realize their true value in the other spaces of the company and how they can bring innovation in a different way to think about finance, or a different way to think about the placement of a product in the consumer's minds that impacts the pride that an employee has in what they're doing every day. And this is truly, to me, connected to Hummingbird effect, the way I look at it, because it is this impact that goes into different areas of business that most people just don't think about. So I think that's really neat that you bring that up. Talk to me about kind of the results in each case, but we'll stay on this particular example. The results that you saw as as you kind of flowed that philosophy out and engaged with the other parts of the company.
Well, first of all, it gave me an education into how the other departments function, right down to the nitty-gritty daily stuff. And for me, they were my target audience. I needed to understand them. I needed to do my own research, right? And then each of these people all have different personalities, so you have to appeal to each of them in different ways. It's like a multi-channel communications plan. And by getting to know them, appreciate their challenges, and try to relieve their pain by giving them information that would make them more effective, they became friends. And they would come and help me out with things like a heads up on, we're changing our shipping cartons structure, or we're having problems with the flour. It has too much protein. The crackers are too thick. They won't fit in the shipping cartons, which actually happened once. By doing that, it helped build a more cohesive management team. It also helped with aligning energy behind new product initiatives where it had been a hard sell early on, because the way the bakery was set up, it was built up for long runs of single products. Last thing they want is somebody coming in with 5 new products that you're going to require line changeovers and downtime, right? Because they're measured on efficiency. So we had to negotiate quite a bit of that to get some new products tested in the marketplace. The other thing is that I think it helped, I hope that it helped the rest of the management team take a more strategic planning view of where the company could go. And by that, I mean really trying to plot a course forward rather than just seeing where a certain account or some products can take you. It's all about, I think it comes down to intentionality. Know exactly why you're making every decision you do, and getting people on board to understand why you're making those calls. The results, the company grew from 96 to 300 million in 7 years. We did it with, now this is going to sound dirt simple, but one of the key products that I proposed was a variety pack of cracker sandwiches for moms who are looking for kids want variety, right? Right. They want the same thing, and then they want variety at the same time. Go figure that one out. And we used to produce trays with 8 or 12 or 24 cracker sandwiches. So I said, how about doing a 12-pack variety pack? Well, the bakery wasn't set up for it. It was set up for long process, long runs, highly automated. To do that required a pick and place operation at the end of the line where you run all these products into bulk boxes. Then you have to have human beings pick them up, put them in the tray, run them through the overwrap, hand pack them, run them through the tape machine, palletize them, take them to the warehouse. And there was tremendous resistance, and operations and finance were worried about the cost. And that's all I heard about was the cost. So I said, we're going to make this the highest margin item in the line. We're going to price it accordingly. We're giving consumers what they want. They should be able to pay more for it, be willing to pay more for it. So we did, and within a year, it was one of the highest margin items in the product lineup. And all of a sudden, they figured out even more efficient ways to do pick and place at the back end in the warehouse. So,
and that was such a simple idea, right? Such a simple idea using product that already existed. It wasn't a whole new product line or anything like that. But you had the foresight to say people will be willing to pay more, and it made such an impact on the company.
Yeah, it did. Cool. And our competitors quickly got into variety packs as well.
So how much more margin could you have on a variety pack than on a regular pack of 12?
We priced it up 25. I can't recall. It was 25 or 28% higher per cracker sandwich than a regular straight pack.
Well, and I guess the consumer's not really standing there going, well, if I buy this, it's this much. If I buy this,
well, you're thinking, if I buy all 5 of these to make what's in the variety pack?
Exactly.
And they'll go stale by the time I get through it.
Right.
I think many marketers have a fear of price increases. That's absolutely the wrong end of the pipe to be looking through. They need to be looking through the value end of the pipe. If you're adding more value, consumers are willing to pay for it. If you're not, you're in deep trouble. It's viewed as a price increase. But if you can absolutely scratch an itch, and my last thought is even better, if you can satisfy an unarticulated consumer need, the kinds of things they can't tell you about that they want because they don't know how to say it, if you can identify those and fulfill those unarticulated needs, you've got an insight that your competitors will never have.
Absolutely.
Because most companies do new product development pretty much along the same lines. Some like get in a conference room, let's throw stuff against the wall, let's have fun. Everybody gets a squeezy ball and Post-it notes and crayons, and it's 3rd grade. Yeah, you can get a good idea out of that, but it's generally a waste of time, in my view. I sound like the critical parent here. It's enough of that, kids. Put those Crayolas away. The other way is many companies are run by left-brain marketers who believe process is king. Oh, Stage-Gate. It's been around only 30 years, but we found a way to adapt Stage-Gate for our company. And all it is it's a linear approach to product development that may or may not get you where you want to be, but it helps the thumbsuckers in marketing by making them feel good when they hit milestone A at the end of stage 1 and milestone B at the end of stage 3. You know, they can show a sheet of paper to the boss and say, oh, look, the pipeline is really alive and look at all the products that are in there. That isn't the way to do innovation. Innovation involves scratching the needs of unarticulated needs of consumers. And that was the biggest insight I had right at the very end of my career.
So talk more about that. Let's talk about innovation, because you've alluded a couple of times to having a different perspective on innovation today than what you used to have. And I think innovation is such a hot button right now.
Mm-hmm.
You've got innovation in the sense of so many changes in technology in the world, and then you've got innovation of thought and diverse applications of thought. So talk to me about that path that you've gone down and how you see innovation playing a role in really impacting a lot of different areas of business.
Mm-hmm. I think you just highlighted the great bifurcation. One is companies sitting around inventing something and saying, hey, look what we made. And then somebody says, I wonder who we could sell it to. That can work. In some cases, it can work. Sometimes you get lucky. Generally, companies spin their wheels doing that. The other approach is to, again, I'm a broken record, go to the people you ultimately want to sell to. And then what we did at House-Autry, and I thought it was really, for me, it was innovative. We embedded focus group moderators, people that were good with body language and understanding what was going on. We lined up 5 or 6 families in our target demographics. We got them to agree to allow this person to be in their home from 6 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. And they watched as everybody got up, the mad scramble for breakfast, the scramble to get lunches together for the kids, try to get them off to school, either for the bus or in the car and in the van, and away we go. Wives worried about what their husbands were going to eat for lunch. That was a major concern. We had 2 researchers go with women who were doing the weekly grocery shopping, just to observe how they shopped, ask them questions, why they made those decisions, bring that information back. They watched from 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock, the craziness of trying to satisfy the needs of 3 kids and 2 adults who all have different flavor preferences that night. You know, what do you want to do? I want pizza. I want chili. I want a salad. I'm gluten-free. I'm vegan. So through observational research, we brought all the findings back and put them into 3 or 4 buckets. And one is convenience. There's always a need for convenience, now more than ever. So how can you make that person's job easier in the kitchen? Simple. Or on shelf. Is there a packaging configuration that they're complaining about the packaging?
Right.
There might be something different you could do there. So that led us to 5 totally different product concepts from anything House-Autry had done before. And our target was millennials. We wanted to target people that were young enough that we could grow the brand with them over time. Whereas targeting the fried food segment is 55 plus, light blue collar, rural consumers. And that business was dying. So we knew we couldn't ride that horse too much longer. So we developed these 5 new product concepts and developed packaging for, I think, 4 of them. And then in the middle of all of that was when I walked away, and that was the end of my consulting arrangement.
So a couple of questions along those lines. First of all, tell us about the products. What were the 5 new products?
I'll tell you about a couple of them.
Okay.
Because they haven't developed.
Okay.
First of all, none of them have made it to market.
Okay.
One was, what is the core competency of House-Autry? They use literal grinding stones to grind up wheat and corn, add spices, use it for fried food. So grinding stuff up is a core skill. So we developed a line of powdered cocktail mixes, hired one of the leading bartenders in Chicago to develop recipes, took them to the lab, had them emulated through flavor technology, created powders, lined up a co-packer, developed the packaging, lined up distribution, had sales materials ready, all set to go. So that was one. The idea was, for people on the go, you go on a flight and you want an old-fashioned. Well, nobody's going to give you an old-fashioned on a flight. But if you've got these mixes, all you got to do is order your liquor, mix your own drink on the plane for impromptu parties where you don't know what everybody wants and you don't have 8 blenders or all the ingredients. You've got them all. You got the variety to meet the needs of 80% of the requirements for your party. So I still think that's a big idea.
Yeah.
Others have capitalized on it in some ways. They've nibbled around the edges, but nobody's really taken it full 10 out of 10 the way we did. The other area that is still unfulfilled is crock pot seasoning packets. One of the, and I'll take this from insight to product. The insight was mothers in particular, who are working mothers, have a tremendous amount of heavy lifting every morning with the kids and everything else that's going on. And they've got to be thinking ahead about dinner because they're going to come home from work exhausted and then have to get a meal on the table. Crock pots are perfect for that. Get it all set up in the morning, turn it on, mix up the seasonings in there, away you go. So we developed, the concept was around 2 or 3 different seasoning packets. I can't exactly recall the flavors right now, but that's an example of linking the unarticulated insight of adding variety to the crock pot flavors to meet the needs of really active moms. The third idea was a really almost a prescription energy bar that it scratched every purity and health benefit itch you could imagine. And the other products, I honestly can't recall what they were. That was a few years ago. But I think the crock pot is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. If you interviewed moms in a focus group and you said, what new products do you need? What is it that's missing out of your life? Nobody's going to raise their hand and say, hey, I'd really like 5 new crock pot seasoning packets.
Right.
But through observational ethnographic research, where you embed your researchers to live a day in the shoes of the people you want to influence, you can't lose.
Well, and I think this is something, the market research piece of this and the insights that you get from customers and potential customers is so valuable. And I think a lot of brands miss the mark because they skip that piece. That could be a cost thing, a time thing. They think it's going to take too long to get the research done, or they think that that's going to cost a lot. But then at the end of the day, the solutions are so much more tailored to what the customer needs that it should make up the difference, right? Because you're going to market with something that you can have more confidence in. You know that it's going to meet the need of the customer.
Yeah, it's a risk management strategy.
Right.
You can either guess and get hit by bad financial surprises on the back end when the product dies.
Right.
Or you can manage the risk up front. And the other, to your spending point, where brands don't have enough money. I always make the case, or try to make the case, that you always spend against the opportunity. Get a handle on what the potential is for this product in terms of dollar sales and margin. And then that should drive how much you invest in the concept. So it involves that holistic piece. You've got to be able to run the financials, the pro formas, to understand how much margin potential that product has so that you speak that language to the finance person and the board when you go in to make your pitch. So again, it argues for the holistic view of marketing as a general management strategic function.
So if you were given advice based on what you've learned from this process today, what's your number one piece of advice to success?
I would say every marketing leader should view themselves as a consultant, not an employee. Pretend you don't need a job. Pretend you've been hired to go in and offer this company the best advice you can. If you do that, you're going to be successful. Or you're in the wrong company, and you're going to find out pretty quick. But to me, if you can approach in fact, this applies, I guess, to every job. If you view yourself as a consultant rather than an employee, imagine how many more degrees of freedom you have in offering insight and advice to the people you're trying to influence.
That's great. That's great. So talk to me about, we're in an environment, you've seen so many changes over the years of being in marketing. What do you believe is the key for companies in terms of like staying nimble and embracing change and being able to stay competitive with the changes that you've seen in the marketplace?
As a consultant, first piece of advice is don't fall in love with tools. That is such a marketing weakness I see. All I see is write-ups about how I'm using HubSpot and all these other tools. I don't care about the tools. I want to know how the engine runs when you get done working on it.
Yeah.
So lose the fascination with tools. Never lose sight of who it is you're trying to influence. That's the first task in every piece of communication you write, every plan you put together, every product you recommend, every competitive situation. Make sure you understand who it is you're trying to influence and try to get insights from them that your competitors don't have. That's how you get to the competitive high ground. Don't lose sight of your customers. It's B2B. It's B2B. You're still trying to influence people.
Right.
The buyers, the key decision makers in any company, whether it's you're making nuclear reactors or gears. Somebody's got to make the call.
Why do we think this gets missed so often in marketing? Because if you go to Marketing 101, it's always know the target customer, know the need, lead with the need, not the idea, right? Understand what they're really looking for and what they need. Yet I think so many brands still miss that boat. Why do you think that is?
I think there's still a perception among many companies that marketing is a nice to have, not a must have, because the marketers haven't demonstrated their real value. If that team can show measurable results from what they're doing and a path forward to enhance that through the proper investments over time, the company's going to be better off over the long haul. But when I talk to people who don't know anything about marketing, they think it's advertising. They think it's Twitter, X, Facebook, Blue Sky, God knows what else. And the media does a horrible job conflating marketing and sales. Marketing, I used to tell my marketing staff that marketing is not sales. Marketing is everything that marketing is everything that enables the sale to take place. Right? So if you go to that high ground, you understand your job. But marketing has taken a bad name. It's become shorthand for sleazy, underhanded business practices. Oh, it's marketing sleight of hand. Oh, look, the marketers took the weight down but kept the price the same. They hid a price increase from us. Consumers only notice that during times of inflation. It goes on all the time. Commodity prices fluctuate. Companies have to do it because if you try to change a price point with a retailer, you could get thrown out. So companies have to deal with what they have, but marketing has taken, marketing has not gotten the center spotlight that I think it could have, in part because it hasn't earned it. Anything you want out of life, you've got to earn. So I'm looking for marketers to step it up, be more strategic, and demonstrate their value to their management and shareholders.
Yeah, that was something you said earlier that really stood out. We hear it all the time that you don't get buy-in from the people that make the financial decisions in a company from a marketing perspective, but you're so good at knowing your target audience. It's the first thing that I've really pulled out. And you took that into your business side of it. So do you have any insight as to how to keep all the different target audiences in the day-to-day from getting your team, the people that have to buy into your decisions to then go make the decision for the buyers, how to keep them all separate and intentional as you go?
I found that me taking the voice of the consumer in any communications that I did with my team got them into a consumer mindset. And the other thing is transparency. Sharing insights company-wide you got to give people a chance to understand what you're trying to do. So they're smart enough. They wouldn't have their job as CFO unless they had some brains. Share the information with them. Bring it up at meetings. Explain it. Answer their questions. This is why we're doing what we're doing. All the barriers disappear then. If you're not, as marketers, if you're not in love with your target audience and know everything you can, it's like dating. You got to know everything you can about them. You can't know too much.
As you're going in to consult in these companies and you are realizing that it's more of a communication between the different departments, do you know why? Like, have you found some sort of consistency as to why marketing hasn't been talking to them in a way that, like, in the language that they speak? Like, what changes are you making when you go in there?
I don't think many marketers understand the value they can provide.
Right.
If they understood it, that'd be the first thing they'd be talking about every conversation. The other thing is, One of the most valuable courses I took in business school was called A&C, Analysis and Communication. And one Monday a month at 8 o'clock, I had to show up and do a 10-minute speech on a topic that was given to me Friday afternoon at 4. My first speech was on how a beehive works. What's that got to do with business school? What it taught me to do was to quickly research a topic, find something that's interesting and engaging in there, and then present it in a way that was compelling and kept the audience attention all that time. Presentation, there's no substitute for presentation skills. Whether it's written on a sheet of paper or a stand-up PowerPoint or just speaking up in a management meeting. I think we have heads down marketers in many cases right now who are worried about their job. And the first thing they need to do is look in the mirror and say, how would you explain the value you add to yourself? And then tighten that message up and take it elsewhere.
Well, and I think marketers are held to ROI discussions around the things that are easily measurable, which oftentimes, back to the hummingbird effect, that's not where the value is. It's not necessarily, the value of marketing is not just the top line revenue. It is efficient. It can be efficiency. It can be tweaking the price points. It can be things that you don't think about being marketing, that marketing can give insight to, that can improve a business. And so I think sometimes, I know I do it as an agency owner, if I'm not hitting the goals that the clients are saying, right? Like the sales team has not been able to meet the goals this year. For just an example. Well, to your point, is that marketing's fault? It gets pointed back to be part of marketing. I mean, I've had people on this show who are like, marketing's number one goal is that it creates leads and it grows sales. Well, there's a lot of other things that impact sales other than marketing, and so you can't say that across the. You can't say that that's the only goal of marketing. So how do we find value points to even express to ourselves as marketers to help us realize what our impact really is beyond what the financial people say or what is being stated in the boardroom when it just comes to revenue goals?
Every business operates in a competitive environment. And market share is the key measure. Are you getting share of mind? Are you getting share of wallet? Is that translating into shelf space? Is it translating into increased orders? Are we actually meeting the needs of the people we're trying to influence? So, how does a marketer justify their existence? When you talk to the finance people, sometimes it is an ROI discussion. When you talk to HR, it's about developing the managers and having a succession plan that is not a stage gate process. Thank you very much. When you talk to distribution, it's about packaging graphics. How is it? Are your marketing people in charge of the packaging designs of the shipping cartons really keeping the warehouse people in mind? You got a low light environment, black ink on a brown cardboard box, and it's 8 feet off the ground. No wonder orders get misshipped. Marketing can make changes that ripple through the company. That's the other hummingbird effect, right? So if you understand the challenges in every department, you can demonstrate value to each of them before you ever get to the CEO. So it's not hard. Go back to basics. Who are you trying to influence? And then how do you reach them the most effective?
Yeah, I love your approach to just making sure that marketing leaders remember who they are touching at all levels. I think that's a great key from this.
Don't wait for praise.
Right.
Every interface you have is a selling situation. Sell it. Get credit for it. And remind them again the next time you see them. You're a storyteller. All really good marketers are storytellers. Tell your story. You've worked awful hard to get it together. Take credit for it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Did you have fun?
Questions?
Yeah. No, I don't have any more questions. Just a big takeaway that I wanted to share, just because there was a lot of good information, but something you said earlier really stuck with me of taking it back to what House-Autry is, which they grind things. And I mean, you think past that, you think of the product you make and you want to evaluate that product, but you just took the simplest look at what you do and said, okay, we don't have to grind just this. And so that really stuck out to me. And then it kind of pulled back to one of the very first things you said, which was having a competitive marketing in your brand is one of the only ways to stay competitive. So just a reminder to really step back when you're in it deep and just look at the very beginnings, because if you've set a good foundation, the answers are there. You just have to know to look for them.
Yeah. I'd like to go back to one of your earlier observations, and it's this. One of the things I failed to mention is that I think one of the every marketer's, one of their key tasks is to make the complex simple.
Mm-hmm.
What we do is really confusing to people who don't have a marketing background. They don't understand what we're doing. They don't know why we're doing it. So what we have to do is, rather than take them through every slide from a 100-question quantitative survey and show them the charts, we got to tell them up front what we learned from it in very simple, clear, understandable words. So one of my last mantras I'll leave you with is fewer things to higher standards. The bright, shiny object, the tendency to go, squirrel, new marketing tool, let's go get it. Avoid that. Resist it. Suppress it. Take it out of your personality. Mm-hmm. Try to focus on doing 2 or 3 things really, really well, the ones that are most important and are going to drive the needle. And try to ignore the other stuff. It's so easy to get sucked into the idea that activity is progress. It's not.
Well, we just had this conversation yesterday with a client around strategy with all the stuff, all the tactical stuff that's being done, and trying to really streamline, like, what are the top 2 business goals that we need to have front of mind? And then if there's a tactic that you come to us with that is not impacting one of those high-level goals, do we really need to be doing that activity just for the sake of doing the activity? There's so much of that in marketing.
Here's the other thought is companies that have a clear positioning for their brand have permission to say no to things as much as they have permission to say yes to things. So it's a great stress reliever for the organization to have a clear idea of how you're positioned, what your mission is. One of the best I ever heard was Coke's vision statement or mission statement, to have a Coca-Cola within arm's reach of every human being on earth.
Wow.
Utterly simple, incredibly powerful, and it explains what they've done with the company.
Yeah.
That, to me, what permission does that give you? Gives you all kinds of permission. Gives you permission to go to places you wouldn't want to go,
right,
like Mongolia. But so Again, simplifying, focusing. Marketing can help companies do that in ways other functions can't. Finance is backward looking. Right. They're trying to hit budgets. Mm-hmm. Publicly traded companies are even more challenging in that regard. But marketers are forward lookers. They need to create excitement around ideas and around simple, relevant ideas.
I think that says it all right there. Thank you so much.
This has
Mike,
been fun.
This has been enlightening.
I love doing this.
Good. Well, we really appreciate your time today and coming on the show with us. It's great to see you again. And listeners, there was so much to take in from this episode. So take it all in and go find your hummingbird effect.
Thanks for listening to The Hummingbird Effect with Wendy Coulter. We hope you found this episode valuable. Please be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more or to work with Wendy and her team, go to hummingbird-creative.com.